from the mental side of it with the injury, for me, I only had one real bad one where I had a groin injury when I was up in Brisbane, and I had about, what was that, 7-8 months off, and that was actually, without trying to plug the Inner Game journals, that was actually the time when I really got involved in kind of journaling and writing down a lot more things and thinking about, who I am as a person, not just as a player, because we associate ourselves as players from the age of 14, 15, 16, and our identity kind of gets wrapped up in that. So when you get injured, it can be a really tough time because all of a sudden you're not a player anymore. Yeah, you're contracted wise you are, but you're not. You train separately. So you could imagine, all you fans listening out there, the 10,000, 100,000, however many listeners we've got these days, you're going into work and all of a sudden, you're just going to work with different people. 70, 85% of the workload are going to do the normal work. And then you and the 20 other percent just go to a separate area to do your work. You don't have the same schedule. You don't do the same things. So then after training, when it finishes, you're not able to really go and get coffee and hang out with them as much. You don't go to the match days to train with them, to play the games. You're up in the box. It can be a really, really isolating kind of time. And that's why, some players struggle a lot with it. I tried to, I guess, be as consistent as possible with my training, do as best as I could, and enjoy that outside life. And try and find the joy in other things. And, when I got days off, I would go down to the beach a lot more and try and just forget about football. Because if you get too involved in it, you can get quite depressed and quite down just because you're not able to do the thing that you love. So for me, that was a really key thing, and celebrate the small wins along the way, because, whether it was an assault bike, a roller, it's shit doing it, but you turn it into a challenge. You're like, all right, like, I'm going to become a machine at this. Or whether you're doing upper body, it's like, I want to work on this, or I want to get really strong. And as soon as you start running, you lose all that weight anyway, and you don't look as good in the mirror anymore. But for that time being, you got to challenge yourself, because that's what we love. So what did you find when you did, you came back to Melbourne, obviously, to do your rehab with Tim Schleiger. But what did you find it like?
Yeah, I think as footballers, like you touched on, we crave structure. And it's like what you said, with the job. Well, we get paid, to play football. I don't get paid to be sitting in the gym and doing these rehab exercises. That's not what I love. That's not what I was when I was a young kid. Oh, I want to be sitting in the gym doing fucking rehab exercise from an injury. No, you want to play football. You want to be out there helping the team and contributing. But yeah, it's hard. And I think a lot of it comes down to your mental toughness. And I think as professional athletes, a lot of people do have that, whether it's something that they've trained or something that they've just had. And that's why they've become professionals compared to maybe someone else. But I would say my ACL was like a very, very hard injury. Don't get me wrong. I had that cry when I got the first news. I thought the world was kind of ending. But then after that, it was like, okay, now what's the plan? How am I going to get this right as soon as possible? How am I going to get the best surgeon to do my thing? How am I going to get the best physio to look after me? And that's when I did. I reached out to you actually, and you put me in touch with Tim. My club was good enough to let me come back to Australia. I came back, did my operation, started the rehab, and that was the first thing I said to myself. I said, you know what? There's nothing I can do about it now. My ACL's done. How am I going to get this right? And I'm going to do everything I possibly can to be as strong as possible, get my muscle back to how it was before, get my mobility right. And I just wanted to get so fit. And to be honest, when I got back to Hearts, my skin fold, my body weight, it was all lower than before I got injured. And I was coming off the back of, a 9-month injury. It shouldn't be like that. But I was in better shape after my injury than when I was playing before that. And it is very, very hard. But I think, like you said, you celebrate the little wins along the way. And with an ACL, it is very much timeline based. At 2 weeks, I can do this. I can maybe start riding the bike. At 4 weeks, I can start running maybe on an Ultra G, and then so on and so forth. You get your little milestones along the way. I think the hardest injuries are the ones that, your stress fractures, where you don't have that timeline. That's the ones that really, I think, affect people. You've got your osteitis pubis that I've seen so many people go through it, and I never wish it upon anyone, because they're the type of injuries where you don't get that timeline. So then you think, well, I'm doing all this work, but what for? It feels good one day, then it feels back to normal, back to back to shit. What's going on? Like, and then you start questioning the physio, you start questioning your own body, the work that you're doing, the food that you're eating. And then I think that's when it gets into a really vicious cycle of just negativity. And the mental side is really, really hard. But I think if you've got that outlook of, you know what, I'm injured, it's not what I want, but I'm going to use this time to make myself stronger. I'm going to use this time to make myself fitter, better, learn things about my body that I didn't maybe take notice of before, like hydration and diet, and put those things into practice to make yourself become a better professional. And that's really the only things that you can do in those situations.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes an injury early on in your career is a good thing. Obviously, you don't want anything too serious, or you don't want anything that's going to, shorten your career. But sometimes it can allow young players to actually become more professional, because they, when you're a kid, you rock up to training, you just start shooting balls as hard as you can, knocking long balls. You don't warm up properly. The older you get, the more you start to realize, shit, like I got to do my activation exercises. I got to get in the gym. I got to stretch. I got to slowly warm up. But if you don't get a serious injury earlier on, you maybe don't take it seriously until you get to 27, 20. And by then it might be too late and you've actually shortened your career. So, something that, for me at 20, I was at 21, 22 when that happened, my injury with my groins, and you, similar age, you then actually do, you start to worry about what you're eating, you're sleeping. And that's why we're both wearing the whoops, to track our sponsor us. We're athletes, but at the end of the day, it's our job. So doing everything you can. Of course, you still got to go out and enjoy yourself, and you can have the odd McDonald's or whatever it is. But everything you do is going to impact how you perform on the field. And sometimes it's those injuries and those players that get a lot of injuries that they start to look into everything. And they then, when they come back, they're the fittest, they're the hungriest, because they've actually had to work so hard to just be fit. Something you take for granted. So hopefully that gives you an insight into what it's like for a player going through an injury. Again, everybody's different, but it's a tough place. But also sometimes, like Ben said, you can actually work on other areas of your game, whether it's your strength. Sometimes just a break from the stress of actually performing every single day can also be a good thing. And Sam's obviously been under a lot of pressure with the Women's World Cup on home soil. Maybe this is the chance to actually, give her body and her mind a break. So when she comes back again, she's got another 4, 5, 6, 7 years, however long she plays for. But yeah.
Oh, Fred. Fuck you lot. Where's the beer?